Don't be afraid that you're going to break it. Most of the time, you're not, unless you're like changing a website or doing something major. But for the everyday stuff, test stuff out, try stuff, and don't be afraid of it.
Self-publishing your books now, you can go and try to find you a traditional publisher. You can try to find you an agent. You can go and pay people thousands of dollars to publish your book. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're still going to have to do the book promotion yourself. And so, self-publishing in the last 5 6 years has become really the way to go.
If you're like me and you want to throw your computer out the window almost every day, this is the show for you. I'm Siobhan Shaw and I'm tech challenged. I'm happy to tell everybody that I am tech challenged. But we have the fairy tech mother with us, Adrian Gentilcore, who is going to give us a whole lot of tips.
It's just an endless vista of things to do. But if you know some basic stuff, it can really help you in your personal life, in your business, getting your name out there if you're trying to get clients. So there's lots and lots of different platforms that you can get into and different tech that can really help you expand your presence and also, kind of keep your life on track, which we all struggle with. So I think that's a good thing.
So, what is the most useful tech tip or shortcut you think everyone should know?
Okay, here's what I do, and here's what I find is helpful. When you're going into a new program or a new app or a new whatever, don't be afraid to push buttons. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to get in there and experiment a little bit and go, oh, what does this feature do? What does this feature do? And, you know, there really aren't a lot of opportunities to completely break something. And usually you can get in there and just kind of play with it and see what it can do. And that's how you learn. I've taught a lot of computer classes where I see these little old ladies in the background and they're writing down, okay, step one, step two, step three. That approach doesn't work because you need to understand intuitively, okay, if I want to go from point A to point B, this button here is what's going to get me there. So you need to just kind of take a little time and try different things and then pay attention to what worked. And that is going to help you through. So don't be afraid that you're going to break it. Most of the time, you're not, unless you're like changing a website or doing something major. But for the everyday stuff, test stuff out, try stuff, and don't be afraid of it. And don't give yourself the excuse of, well, I didn't grow up with it. Well, okay, but we didn't grow up with cell phones and we managed those.
Oh, no.
So, you have to adapt. Well, at least the basics, you can answer a call, you can send a text, and we've managed to do that stuff because we need to do that. But, don't be afraid to hop in and try stuff.
What frustrates me the most and what I have always learned is that every time I try something, then I realize that, like you said, I start doing buttons and I start doing things. And then I
Yeah.
realized that there was a more efficient way to do it. And then I don't know how to go back and fix it. So I'll give you an example. I open a YouTube page and I make this like long name, and then I do certain things with that name. Then I realize that that's not the way I should have done it. Or, on Facebook, I do a group and then I realize it was better if I use pages, and then I don't know how to back and fix it. So it's almost like I'm always chasing my tail. And I was like, oh, I'm trying this. And then I'm like, oh no, but there was a better way. And so there's again, so many things happening at the same time that sometimes I don't even know how to organize my head. I give up. I just stay like 2 or 3 weeks away, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like hiding like an ostrich. I can't really hide. I gotta go up and then fix the problem, and then it's all
Yeah.
back to the same.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about this is the most efficient way to do it. If you've got a way that works, use that. Use that way until you're comfortable with it. Then you can experiment and try the easier way. But if the more complicated way is working for you and you're able to understand what you're doing, then by all means, there's no harm in doing it that way because at least that way you feel comfortable with it. And then the more times you do it, then you can reach out a little bit and go, oh, hey, here's a shortcut. Here's a better way to do it. But, don't beat yourself up if you're having to do something in a little bit less efficient way because it's still working. You're still able to do it. So I think, you kind of have to dive into it and try it and see what's working. And I think that's going to help you a lot. And I think picking the right tools is important. So, you want tools that are efficient but simple and easy to learn and easy to use. You don't want to hop into something that's really complex because sometimes, that can be really difficult to learn and we're so fast paced, we don't want to allow the time to actually learn the program correctly. So if you can learn the 2 or 3 things that you absolutely need to do in the program and take the time to practice with them and test them out a little bit, then I think it'll be less frustrating and you'll be less likely to want to throw the computer out the window.
So, Dr. Lana, you have a doctorate in IT. When did you get that? Were you young?
I didn't start till I was like about 52. Went back to school. I did go to college back in the 70s when we had punch cards and computers came out and they were in these big rooms and we learned how to um program in COBOL and RPG2 and BASIC and some of the programming back then was coding and all. The personal computer that you see on your desk wasn't invented at that point. And so anyway, and the internet wasn't invented. In fact, a few years later, when we did get personal computers kind of, uh, then we some of us nerds, well, we would find these phone numbers we could dial into to these forums that would get you into these places that were kind of like the back of the web, but they didn't have the same kind of interface as AOL or you know the when until Microsoft came out with the interface where you could get on the internet the way you can get on it now. We would dial into these places and we thought we were really cool because we were getting in these forums and talking to people. But basically what Adrian was talking about earlier in the AI and what you talked about with Chat GPT, that's something that I've been really working on this past year, and actually for the last couple of years have a program that I'm a part of, a group, and we use this program with AI in order to create copy for social media posts, uh tweetables, calendar, content calendars. I've really been using AI for helping people create their content that they can use on the internet for blog posts and emails and I can help you create like a month's worth of social media posts and really a very short period of time, and also actually supply a few graphics as well. But basically the content is, and using AI has been one of the things that I've really concentrated on this year about becoming really more because that's where it's going. That's the fastest way to do it. It's and you if you just learn what kind of prompts to use the best, that really helps you out the most. It's not really just using Chat GPT, but it's also knowing how to effectively get the info, because a lot of times, and it's always been this way throughout the years, and that is, if you put junk in, you're going to get junk out, and you don't want to sound like you're a AI robot. You want to actually, if you get some information, you want to use it for research. You can use it for writing. That's no problem. But you don't copy and paste what you get. You use it as research. You use it as your starting point, and then you go in and you put your voice to it. It gives you information to start with, and it kind of takes that writer's block out of people, gives them a place instead of a blank piece of paper.
So what does everybody think about the introduction of AI and where it's going? And you have different camps. You have the people that are rah-rah, and you have the people saying, this is the work of the devil. This is going to put us all into slavery. Machines are going to rule the world. It's going to be very Terminator-esque. Adrian, what your expert opinion
Yeah,
on
I
AI?
can kind of see both sides of it. I do find AI a little scary. I do see the possibility that things could go badly, especially if AI were in control of people who were not having pure motives. So I do have some concerns about that. But like Lana, I do use it for, ideas. I use it for, kind of a jumping off place. But I don't use it as much as a lot of people do because I just, I want to write my own stuff and have stuff. And I'm also an author and I'm also part of an anthology. So I'm, using it to, help me do my SEO, search engine optimization, use my right keywords and whatnot, but then I'll write the article myself. So I think that's important. But I wanted to build on something that Dr. Lana was saying.
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting that I'm 64. I work with my sister who is 76. And so a lot of us have this conception that, oh, this is only for the millennials, this is only for the kids. And I really want to dispel that myth to say, you've got people right here who are, in later in our lives, and we're still using this stuff successfully, even though, yeah, I didn't grow up with this. I didn't have it when I was a teenager. I was probably close to 30 before I ever got my first PC. I relate very much to what Dr. Lana was saying about punch cards and about dial-up and about, all of that older tech stuff that was available. But, don't feel like you need to be shut out of the tech world just because you're a little bit older. You can still learn, you can still be flexible, but it's all about mindset. If you have a mindset of, oh, I hate it, oh, I struggle with it, I'm never going to be good at this, I'm never going to get this. Well, that's a self fulfilling prophecy. But if you're like, well, here's something new, it's like learning to play the piano. A lot of people pick up, an instrument or want to learn a language later in life, and they might do very well at it. So if you keep an open mind and are willing to be patient and, feel your way through things rather than trying to, do it rote by rote, step by step, because it doesn't really work that way. You need to understand why you're doing something, how you're doing it, what's going to happen if you push this button or something, then I think you're going to be a lot more successful with it. And there are some tools that are really helpful that I think people kind of shy away from. Okay, Canva. Canva is brilliant. I use it a million times a day. And I just used it last night to come up with a flyer for our church youth group. I've used it for a birthday invitation. I've used it for all sorts of things. So that is a very flexible, easy to use tool. It has a free program. It doesn't have to cost anything. And it's easy to use. So I think that is a really good tool that everybody can use in your business and in your personal life. So I think that's very helpful. Trello would be my second one. I love Trello. It's a project management tool, organizing tool. It is also a free tool, and I've used it for like 8 years. and I've used it for everything. I use it to organize my business. I use it to organize a lot of my personal stuff. I use it to keep like affirmations and little graphics that I like. And, it's really unlimited and very visual and very flexible. As far as the other one that I would suggest, I think Zoom is really handy. Being able to talk like this, before the pandemic, I remember trying to explain to people what Zoom was, and they had no idea. And then after the pandemic, people used it a lot. But I think we kind of overlooked the ability here to get on with people and to converse with people across the country and to get to know people. I do a lot of networking, and I think that it's a nice thing for like support groups. Like, if you're in a widow support group or you're in a cancer support group or whatnot, this is a great way to interface with people without having to leave the house. And again, it has a great free plan, and it's a tool that's very easy to use. It doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles that you have to manage with. So those would be my top three.
It's interesting because when I was a teenager, my friends and I laughed a lot about video phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
everything that was on the Jetsons, we have now.
I know. And so here
funny?
we are, and the pandemic drove us all to do Zoom, and here we are doing shows, and people are sharing from around the world. I mean, I co-chair a board of a Ugandan nonprofit, and I only met the executive director, the founder, from a Zoom call. I've never met her in person. We got along great, and she wanted me to come and join her board. And I have regular board meetings with this Ugandan nonprofit, and I know I do what I can to support this nonprofit. They're teaching children to grow food, and it obviously works very well with growingtogive.org, which is nonprofit I'm a founder of. And it's so interesting because it's changed the way we live. It's no longer sort of this neighborhood right around us. We have friendships around the world and people that we've never met. So it's like pen pals on steroids, right?
When eBay came out, that's the coolest thing that we'd ever imagined, that you could sell a Pez dispenser to somebody clear across the country and they would send you money. I was a eBay seller for about 5 years and did very well with it. So, that was a technology that no one even thought about prior to it showing up on the market. And then everybody was like, and now it's kind of old hat. Now it's like, oh, I don't even know if anybody even goes on eBay anymore. But that was such a revelation to be able to do that. So yeah, it broadens your neighborhood, and people, even if they can't get out and about, maybe there's some mobility issues or some health issues, they can still interface with people. They can still get to know people. They can still build friendships. So I think that's pretty cool.
I do want to add to the Zoom part, which is a lot of our live viewers today are actually part of For Life, and we always used to do live meetings, and people would have to drive an hour and a half to go into a hotel meeting. And I think that, now it's important that we do go back to it. But I remember that people used to have to really, and it was good, dress up and put on their high shoes and put on their lipstick for ladies, or the tie for men. But it almost became like, I remember my sister, she would drive 1 hour and a half every Thursday because you would have to be there. It's your team meeting. There's no other way to do it. People would do it on a phone. There was no WhatsApp, I think. I don't know. People didn't do video calls or anything.
Yeah.
And then we started incorporating Zoom, and it was the most fantastic thing. Like you said, for us as a network marketing company, we started growing because now we could see people in Africa. And today we have one of our best friends here, Happy Faye. She joins us every night, and it's morning in Singapore. And so it's just so wonderful that you start creating these relationships. But here's where it becomes the best part. because now we can create better and stronger relationships. Now, these online friends, like Siobhan said, they were pen pals before, but now we have just so much more access to it. Now, this new um, friend, it becomes a friend, because when
Mhm.
I get to see them, the feel is completely different. And Helena Ayala is here, she can attest to that. I had never seen Helena before, but it's like I know her. So when I finally met her in April last year, even Siobhan, when I met her, it was like I already knew her. And it's just the strangest sensation to be able to do a meeting every week, or just talk to people, and create that community worldwide, where you're like, oh my gosh, I have somebody from Africa, I have somebody from Germany, and I feel them all as if I've known them like a high school friend. And so I do
Isn't that
believe
wonderful?
that Zoom, personally to me, was one of those tools that opened up the world for me in a way that I love Zoom. I love Zoom.
I have a couple of programs to add to. I know I like the ones that Adrian said, like Canva is like that is then they have the free version. Canva can help you create all kinds of stuff. And then I also use another tool, and that's the thing about AI that I want to stress, and that is because I believe that sometimes AI can sound so real that it's hard to tell the difference. I think there are some opportunities, just like with any other tool, to be able to go onto a side where we really don't want to go. But you have to take it back and remember that AI is just a tool. And so I use a tool called Page Wheel, which I'm an affiliate for, and it is a type of tool that where I can create products, digital products, and then I also can create my copy packs for my tweetables, for my social media content, for my blog posts, for my SEO, for uh emails, for all kinds. It's just really robust as far as being able to create like a month's worth of content in really a very short period of time using this tool. If anybody ever wants to know how to, I can teach you how to use it. It's a very good tool, but I also think the basic tools that we've used in Microsoft Word and in PowerPoint and in Excel. I mean, those tools, even though they aren't really sophisticated, they're really the basic tools that everybody kind of could need to use are very
Mhm.
are very useful. And then being able to self-publish my books on Amazon KDP for is an excellent tool because self-publishing your books now you can go and try to find you a traditional publisher. You can try to find you an agent. You can go and pay people thousands of dollars to publish your book. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're still going to have to do the book promotion yourself. And so, self-publishing in the last 5 6 years has become really the way to go. And Amazon KDP is free. You can have your author page for free on Amazon. Amazon provides you many tools that you can use. And so I would say that the page wheel tool for creating copy and ads and things for my social media, and then the basic tools of Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and then KDP for Amazon, publish your books are some of the top, along with the ones that Adrian also shared.
If you could invent one gadget, Adrian, that would solve all the tech problems, what would it be?
I think AI would probably be that tool. But I'm very cautious with AI. I am so paranoid with Google, taking away all of our privacy and whatnot. So I use a private browser. I use a private search engine. I don't care to have these things tracking me. I don't have talking remotes in my house. I don't have, Alexa or any of her friends are not welcome in my home, because I think it's very creepy to have someone listening to all of your private conversations in your home. So I think
It's true.
these
Yeah.
tools are good, but I think you need to put some boundaries around them and make sure that they're not overstepping their boundaries. So I think there needs to be a balance to say, yes, I'm going to use it for this thing, but no, I'm not giving you permission to track everywhere I go or track everyone who comes to my home or, some of the creepy things that actually are happening.
Have you ever been having a conversation in your living room and then you go to your Facebook page and there's an advertisement for that thing that you were just talking? That's creepy.
Exactly. That is
It's very
exactly
creepy.
it. And I know
How
that
is that not illegal?
yeah.
Who
And
made that legal?
In Europe,
yeah.
the politicians care about that stuff, and our politicians don't. Our politicians don't fight for us to have our privacy. So I think that's something that we need to push for and require them to guarantee our privacy, because it's shocking how much information, especially when you've got a very unique name like mine. If you pull up a Google search, it will tell you everything but my shoe size and my blood type. It's really creepy. So I
Well,
think there needs to be some control in place.
Well, I just read that one of those DNA companies, I won't say the name, is going bankrupt. Their entire board stepped out
Yep.
and they're going bankrupt. And I saw a report about what about everybody's DNA in their DNA bank? They have everybody's information. They can connect people. Like we're probably all related, right? Like you don't know. And so what do they do in a somebody can come along and buy that 10 cents on the dollar and get all this DNA and God knows what they can do with it, but that's scary in itself. How did we ever get to a point where we're happily giving away our DNA to people and there's no control over it? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you could write to the company and say, I don't want anybody to touch my DNA, but you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it said explicitly, I read that same article, that they will not remove all of your DNA from existing studies, because they've got studies going on where they're looking at genetic diseases and stuff. But I'm like, they don't have my DNA because I didn't give it to them. So that's a choice that we all need to make. There's a certain entertainment value and a certain woohoo about, you know, getting all this great information about your ancestors, but you really need to be aware of the price of that. And this is what I teach my scouts. When you're writing on the internet, you are writing in pen. There is always going to be a copy of it somewhere. You are always going to be held accountable for things. So you want to be very, very careful. And, we all know celebrities who've, lost their positions and whatnot because they've said nasty things out there and said them publicly. So I think, we have such power that we really need to show responsibility. So I think that's really important.
What about email etiquette? Have you so many people use email just to ghost you? I'm not saying that uh, you're in a business relationship and all of a sudden there's no communication back, but you don't even know if they got the email. And in a lot of cases, they end up having never received that email, or at least they say so. And it's happened to me on my end. I didn't get the email.
But let me tell you a story. I had a lady that I kind of wanted to work with, and I had sent her several different emails talking about her program, and I was thinking of hiring her to be a coach for something, and I never heard back from her. And then I heard in a meeting that she said, "Oh, yeah, I've got 45,000 emails sitting in my inbox." And I went, "You know what? My 3 emails that I wanted to do business with her are sitting in that 40,000." So I kind of have an issue with that. And I think that, part of being in business is to find ways to manage that correctly. And even if that means doing a mass unsubscribe from a lot of things, just so that you can get to the meat and the things that you really need to see. So I can give you a trick. Okay.
Okay.
Take
This
those
is important,
40,000
everybody. I'm
emails.
writing this down.
Okay. Take those 40,000 emails and put them in a folder marked email bankruptcy 2024. All 40,000 of them, so that you're going to start fresh with a nice clean inbox. And then going forward, only use the emails that you want, unsubscribe from tons of things that you want. And that way, those emails are still there. They're still searchable if there's anything that you actually need to find in those emails. You can access it, but it's not sitting there with that blinking number in your face, and you're not feeling guilty and terrible about it. And then going forward, you can get into good habits. So I have a technique that I use. In Gmail, you can star something. So
Mm.
to me, putting a star on an email is sort of like throwing a life raft. You know, it's like throwing someone that life preserver, and it will keep it afloat for a while so that I can take action on it. But then the minute I've taken that action or had that meeting or done whatever, the star goes off. So I can only have my personal rule is that I can only have like 100 starred items. And every once in a while I go through and okay, I did this, I had this meeting, and keep that so that it truly is the most valuable things on my email are starred so that I can take action on them and follow up on them. And that to me is my saving grace.
Lately, we have had a lot of security issues with people that will fake that they are somebody else. And so, two
Mhm.
things. First, they'll just
Yeah.
fake and they'll try and call all your friends because they hacked you somehow. But the other one is they will be as bold as, like, they're getting fancier. They'll go as bold as going into a group, getting everybody's phone, calling and saying, we're the admin of the group. We're sending you a pin if you want to stay in the group. And then they actually, with that pin, get access to their whole WhatsApp and then start
Oh,
texting
that's
every single
terrible.
person. So we're having a lot of issues that WhatsApp really cannot control because the person is actually giving them access. They're not failing. So I think that the failure is communication.
Yeah.
So that was one issue. So I guess put it in one thing is what kind, and the other thing is my sister. She actually also got um, impersonated. Is that what it's called on Facebook
Yes.
as well as WhatsApp? It's almost like she's got
Yes.
a cyber attack, and she only has like 200 friends. It's not like she has 5,000 friends, but they
Yeah.
were what is that word in English? They're substituting her name. They opened another account with her name on Facebook. So it's kind of similar, but it goes into the security thing. And then a friend of hers called her and said, you have to close your account or do something because they're starting to work through your people and they're using your name and we don't know you're going to lose your identity. You got to, put everything private. And so I'm thinking, if that happened to me, I've built 10 years my business into social
Yeah.
media. Like if somebody hacks me and I have to change my WhatsApp, that would be a disaster. It's never happened, thank you God. Or if
That would
somebody
be
tells
bad.
me I have to reopen my Facebook.
I'm going to
So
give you three solutions.
yes.
Okay. Three solutions. One, put a solid password on that account, on every account that you own. It cannot be your pet's name, your kid's name, your address, nothing like that. It has to be something unique, something with all the caps and the numbers that you can remember. Number two, set two-factor authentication on all your important accounts. So anything that touches my money or anything that is important to me in social media, I have to get a code on my phone to log into that. And the third thing is just common sense that what happened to these people was called a phishing account, phishing, PHIS, phishing, meaning that they're trying to get information. So you always need to find a way to verify who you're speaking to. And I don't use WhatsApp, so I don't know how you can verify if the person is who they say they are. You might want to come up with a question that you can ask to say, oh, in last week's meeting, we talked about something. What was it we talked about? Or some question that they need to answer before you give them any information. So if you do those three consistently, you will block 90% of those hacker attempts. But I see people doing crazy, crazy stuff. I had a contract job for a while where I had access to a lot of high-end websites, and I was completely shocked. These were people who were making money on the internet, big names, and their websites were a mess. They had things not updated. They didn't have good passwords. They didn't have proper security on there. And so I found that very alarming. So, I do offer security audits for people's websites. I do offer update services because I have known people who've lost their entire websites. And, that's just no fun and a very expensive thing to fix. I do actually have a guy who can fix Facebook access. So if someone has been locked out of Facebook, I've got a guy that is able to, somehow get those fixed. But, you just have to be very, very careful. And these hackers are so smart. So you just have to be very, very cautious and make sure that you know who you're talking to before you give any kind of personal information.
I'm so impressed with all the women in my generation and above that are techie. I think that's awesome. The fact that you guys were working with computers in the 1970s is amazing. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us. And what is one final piece of advice that you'd like to leave our group with?
Come see me. I do this for a living. I'm happy to help you. I handle many different tech aspects. So if you need help, if you have questions, if you want someone to hold your hand and kind of take you through some stuff, come see me over at yourfairytechmother.com. And I'd love to work with you.
To everyone listening, this has been Real Talk, brought to you by Feel Good, Share Good, where we keep it real to heal. Good night, everyone. Take care.